You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense with your host, Doug Thorpe. Here's Doug.
Hello again, everyone. You are listening to another episode of Leadership Powered by Common Sense. I'm your tour director and cruise guide, Doug Thorpe. And today I've got a gentleman that's going to help us with what I believe is a really important topic for businesses, regardless of what size you may be. And that is the notion of really getting a grip on customer experience, or what some call the customer journey. My guest is a gentleman named Richard Weylman. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Doug. It's great to be with you today. I really appreciate the invitation.
I like to kind of level set a little bit. Can you share with us just a brief flyover of your journey to get to where you are and how you got focused on the things you're doing now?
Well, thank you for that. Let me be very brief. I was very involved in business for many years. I was an orphan. My parents died when my mother died when I was 5, my dad when I was 6. I lived in 19 foster homes, went to 11 different schools. And then when I finally got out of foster care, I went to work I sold cookware, encyclopedia, cemetery plots, family Bibles, sold industrial, all kinds of things. Eventually ended up working for Rolls-Royce, became a general sales manager there, built the third largest Rolls-Royce dealership network in the world. And then I stepped back and somewhat retired from that. And I had an opportunity to get involved with the Robb Report. When it first came out, it was a newsletter, turned that into a magazine. And then we had a liquidity event there. And then people began to call me and said, can you tell us how you're able to relate and connect to all these different constituent groups? So I thought, well, okay, I'll do this for a few months. But well, anyway, that's 30 years later. And so now I spend a great deal of time working with companies all over the world. I've done over 4,000 presentations, keynotes all over the world, specifically on how can you engage with the consumer, the customer, the client, use any phrase you want, regardless of the industry, and how can you get them to become delighted advocates and essentially maximize the LTV, lifetime value of that relationship. And most people don't think about lifetime value, but every customer you have, it took money or something to get them. And so keeping them and maximizing their lifetime value is a very important topic. So that's how I got there. And through that journey, I've worked with NFL teams, fast food restaurants, hospitality, financial services, many, many different industries. And so I got inducted in the Speaker Hall of Fame and then into the Customer Experience Hall of Fame, because we sort of found the path on how to get brands to connect to their client and customer base, and the growth potential is remarkable when you have brand advocates in the marketplace on your behalf. Thank you.
Right. Well, I think it's easy for all of us to relate to a favorite restaurant, a favorite brand, a favorite flavor of a favorite destination, a favorite service provider, and what do? We tell our friends about it. When you hear the topic come up in conversation, somebody else says, I'm interested in X. Well, if you've got a guy that does X, well, you're going to share it and speak it. It doesn't cost the company a dime for that message to go out to that ear. And because you referred it, that person's going to be more likely to at least make the call and check it out.
That's exactly right. And what people don't realize, even it started before the pandemic. I started to see it about 19 and then 20, and it was becoming clear to me because of the commoditization of almost every industry that even in sports, people have X amount of dollars to spend on a sports team ticket. So there's a commoditization issue there and a choice issue. And it occurred to me that what's really going on, of course, the pandemic really brought it to the fore because people got online and saw all these other options they could order from, as an illustration. Now consumers are going through a great reevaluation. Am I with the right financial advisor, right real estate agent, right doctor, right dentist? I mean, we can make a long list here. And they're evaluating, am I in the right place with the right firm? Am I an account, or do they really care about me? So as a result of that, for companies to thrive and sustain momentum today, they've got to get involved in a great re-engagement. They've got to engage with people exactly where they are in the marketplace today. And there's only 4 things that people are looking for. Well, Doug, assuming competency is in place, okay, let's be clear here. If you say I'm a dentist, they expect that somehow you know how to operate a drill. So we'll leave it at that. Okay. So if you're running an air conditioning, any kind of business, if you're in that business, there's a perception that hopefully you're competent. But then what sets you apart? Everybody says, well, it's my product. It doesn't. Product, placement, process, all that plans, all of that for the most part is quantified. What sets you apart is the experience people have. And what people are looking for today is personalization and humanization. Now people say, well, okay, personal, what does that mean? And that's what I did. Because I kept hearing that from people and I thought, yeah, but what does that mean? And what is an elevated experience anyway? Is it taking the smoothing out the customer journey, removing the friction? Well, those are all corporate speak and are meaningless. The average individual sitting at a customer service desk doesn't know how to remove the friction. He or she is simply following the guidelines set out by somebody sitting up in corporate that probably never talked to anybody on the phone, as an illustration. So we began to really explore that. And what I found out was there were 4 things people are looking for in their experience. One is they want somebody that's kind, somebody that's thoughtful, willing to go the extra mile, think about things and communicate things from my point of view, meaning theirs. Third, somebody that's caring, that cares enough to find out what we really want, as opposed to, how can I help you? What can I do for you? Which is many salespeople are taught. Just ask them, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Well, I don't know. That's not an inquiry question that's going to help me understand that you care about me. So they want thoughtfulness, kindness, caring, and they want empathy. Because empathy is a powerful tool. It reduces, Covey talked about this, it reduces defensive energy, replaces it with positive energy, and people that are open for the solution. But most importantly, Doug, they feel like, oh my God, finally I have somebody sitting on my side of the table. Is that helpful?
Totally. And I'm thinking of dozens of examples of late that I'm dealing with right now that fit that. I want to, if we can, park that. I love that framework, by the way, and I do want to come back to it. But I think I want to start with the basic question: why do companies tend to get it wrong?
Well, it's an interesting question. I could just tell you experientially. And from my experience, and we've consulted, as I said, in many different industries, is they often go by what they think. So let's say I'm a CEO or I'm a COO or maybe I'm running a division. And I'll often say, well, let me tell you what I think we ought to do here. Let me tell you what I think we ought to do. Well, it all sounds terrific. And I mean, God bless you for having a thought. But they look at customer satisfaction scores. I know a company right now, last year, their customer satisfaction scores were in the 80th percentile. They thought they had a great year until they realized they lost 13,000 customers.
Wow.
Because what is customer satisfaction scores? It's a look backwards. How did that go? Oh, it went great. But are you a delighted advocate? Not so much. I know from my research in interviewing thousands of people through all of our consulting, we do a lot of branding and the client interviews and customer interviews, hundreds and hundreds a year in our consulting business, that we figured out pretty quickly that 20 to 30% of any company's customers are merely satisfied. They're a long way from delighted. And satisfied customers are loyalty neutral. They will move their business given another opportunity. And it doesn't, but what was shocking was how many people said, well, I moved. Would you move for a lower price? No, I just had a better experience. They treated me like a person, not an account. They actually knew my name. My first name is Richard, and they didn't call me Richard Dick. Oh, that made all the difference in the world. They didn't say, feel free to call. They said, feel welcome to call. I loved it. They stopped signing their emails best, which we hate. Why don't they sign it warm regards or kind regards and stopped with sincerely yours? It's institutional and treats me like an account. Well, when you get this kind of feedback, you begin to realize, okay, what's going on? Well, what's happening is the culture of the organization is in place, that it focuses on transactions and what someone at some leadership role said, this is what we think. The way to do it is go out, as we've done it, go out and interview people in that space, your customer base. And here's the great question that we teach all of our clients to do, Doug. At least once a year, you ask your customers, not how was the service? I mean, God, good service is a minimum expectation today. Go to McDonald's, the fries are cold, they'll give you fresh ones. What do you say? What are 3 things we can do to elevate your experience with our firm? Wow. the insight you get, because it's direct from the consumer, those are the things that you can improve upon. And that's how you end up not getting it wrong, because you're focused on that which it is that the consumer, your customer, believes is right. Is that helpful?
Totally. What I've seen, particularly in private business, what I've seen founders do, they get so focused on the product or service that they're taking to market, they kind of build from that inside out rather than outside in, and they start. There was a word once upon a time I learned in my marketing education. The whole feature and benefit angle.
Right.
Here's what we do. Here's the benefits of using our thing or our service. And what I read and understand today, consumers generally don't care about that, or if they do, it's way, way down on the list of consideration.
That's exactly right. It's just not, it's not where they are. And I think what people, well, look, it's important to be passionate about that which it is that you are taking to the marketplace. That's an understandable point. But we have to be and leaders, founders, et cetera, we get so engaged, we don't think about what's our vision for the customer experience. And it's important that we deliver great service, et cetera. But great service today, as I said earlier, is a minimum expectation. Think about what Bezos did. This is way back when he was sitting in that cubicle, that little office with the folding table, and everybody sees the picture of, whoa, don't quit, be aggressive, go forward. Yeah, but what they don't see is what he had on the wall. It was real clear. My vision to build the most customer-centric company in the world. End of point. And he's never moved from that.
Right.
I'm not saying that they are the, shall we say, arbiter of that, all that is in the customer experience. But I will say, if a founder, a leader, and you can say, well, the company, forget the company. If you're running a sales organization or a marketing or service organization, what is your unit? What's your vision for the experience people are going to have with your unit? What is going to be your vision? We work with Freddie Steakburger and Custard, and they just won the National Restaurant Award for the best fast casual in the country. They beat everybody, Smashburger, Culver's, everybody. And how'd they do it? Because we came up with a vision statement to greet every single customer and serve the meal with gracious hospitality. I'm paraphrasing, but as a result of that, guess what? It changed the entire experience the customers are having, because the crews, as they call them, they're working on the counter and making up the burgers, steak burgers. They all are trying to what? Demonstrate gracious hospitality on behalf of the customer. When I worked with Truett Cathy, who was a dear friend of mine, Chick-fil-A, he's passed away now, but we travel a lot. We were great friends. And he always used to tell me, he said, Richard, he said, I always remind my crew and my team to never forget, we're not in the chicken business. We're in the people business. And if you think about this, Doug, Chick-fil-A is closed 52 days a year, every Sunday. So another way to put that is they close November 15th and open January 1st. Let's put that in context. Yet their stores produce more revenue than any other units in the fast food industry by massive numbers. And they're not open 24/7 either. So the question is, how is that possible? Come on, Doug. It's a chicken sandwich, okay? Well, it's really clear. Because I've walked the line at Chick-fil-A when there are double lines and you walk, and I said to people, hi, I'm writing a new book about elevating the client experience. And my question is, why are you here? Oh, the chicken sandwiches are amazing. I said, great. I said, but why are you here? They said, well, they're just so kind and thoughtful here. And if you look at their ads, they don't talk about the chicken sandwich. They have people sit on a couch and talk about the experience they had at Chick-fil-A, and their numbers are through the roof. So what's the point? If you want to acquire and retain clients for life, you have got to engage them emotionally. If you do an elevated experience and engages them emotionally, and they stay with you.
I've frequently told this story here of late. There's a plumbing company in Denver that I know about, and the name of the company is High Five Plumbing. A little bit of play on words, Denver, elevation, all that, but it's literally the hand, high-fiving. And part of the culture that the owner has developed, he encourages his technicians. Number one, there's a long standard of expectation for how they need to show up and act on the job site. So, and it starts with the principle, you're getting invited into somebody's home, you know, and when you go there, you need to treat it with respect, dignity, and et cetera. But they go through the whole service tech call, and then at the end of it, they ask the customer, the techs are encouraged to do this, ask the customer, are you happy with the service today? You know, well, yeah, I think seems like time will tell if it works, you know, but okay, yeah, it all went well. Well, would you mind stepping out in the front yard and let me take a picture of us doing a high five? And it's just a little schmaltzy, but people love it, and they're engaged. And several things come from that. One, he said on the downside, when they get a follow-up call from that homeowner that says the tone of the call is totally different if they did agree to do that high five moment versus not. And some people don't. They don't want their picture taken and all that. So they get that. But those that do, when they do call for a call back, the tone is far more docile. It's, hey, George was out here. He really tried. I know he worked hard, but you know, it's still leaking. It's still got a problem. Can you send somebody back to take a look at it? Versus, you guys are idiots. You took my money. What are you doing? You know, blah, 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 blah. You know, the whole elevation of anxiety is different.
Well, to your point, the 4 E's, elevating the experience creates emotional engagement. When I am connected to you emotionally, I'm no longer going to call and chew you out. I'm going to call and say, how can we partner to fix? Or how can we partner to move forward? Whatever the case might be. And that's how you keep lifetime value. And as I said at the onset, very few, I speak at a lot of conferences and with entrepreneurs. And when I ask how many people are in this room are focused on LTV, it's like, what does it mean, LTV? Lifetime value. And this individual company you're speaking of that does a high five, what they're really doing is emotionally engaging with people. And what's that going to translate into? Lifetime value.
Right.
And that's what happens when you focus on the consumer and on your client and build relationships, because relationships drive revenue. It's the foundation of every business today. It's that relationship you build.
So when we were in the green room before we went live here, we were talking about the idea that when companies try to define their customer experience, it usually starts with some long paragraph of process or step by step and all that. What is your advice on how that definition should look?
Well, if I were going to tell you to have take a look at this, it's typically going to be a singular thing I want you to look at. So when you create a vision that's got multiple sentences or maybe paragraphs, it's very hard to take a look at it, but more importantly, it's impossible to digest it and act upon it. So a vision statement is exactly that. It's aspirational on how you want to be perceived by the consumer in the marketplace. What experience do you want them to have? I mentioned Freddy's as an example. They want to deliver food with gracious hospitality. What part of that is confusing? I would say nothing. Is that why they took out a lot of the booths and they put in movable chairs and tables in their stores? Yes. Why? So that the Girl Scouts could come on Wednesday night and slide their tables and chairs all over to the corner, and the church group could be over here and the baseball team over here, because it was a more hospitable environment. And as a direct result, their sales went up, their word of mouth went up, their same store sales went up because people had a place of community there. Wow. How did that happen? Pretty simple. The vision is gracious. If you're going to be hospitable, you have to also create an environment in which people feel comfortable and welcomed. All right. So I can move my chairs instead of trying to sit in booths and yell across 6 booths at my friends. We can sit together. That's one example. But the important thing is that a vision statement is, what experience do you want your customers to have, your clients to have? It's one sentence. Ritz-Carlton has one sentence. Amazon, one sentence. We want to what? We're the most customer-centric company in the world. That's their vision. They want everybody to know you're going to have a great experience. Now, here's the point. If you don't have a clear vision of what the customer experience or client experience is going to be, then your team's going to create one of their own. Because people are going to have an experience with your company.
Right.
Whether you set the tone, they're going to have an experience. You're in charge of figuring out what that's supposed to be. So as a direct result of that, what you end up thinking about is, okay, if they don't have a clear vision of what the experience is supposed to be, then depending on how they feel that particular day, that's going to be the experience your customer has. And what I've learned over the years and all the years and of my work in this space, the challenge is this: if you don't have a clear vision for that which it is you want your customers to experience, one line, one sentence, here is what we're going to be known for in a marketplace experientially. Now, what happens is your team starts to become all about themselves. And as a direct result of that, there's a complete disconnect with it's not my job, or they'll say, it's on our website, you can look there, instead of sending the link as an illustration. Or they'll say, well, that's not something that we do here, but I can transfer you, and let me do that. And if we get cut off, you can call back. Well, that's not a great experience. I'm going to transfer you. Give me your number just in case we get disconnected, because I'm going to have my team member call you back. I mean, these are all little things, but they have a profound effect. And your earlier point about advocacy, 87% of the people, hundreds and hundreds of people that I interviewed before I wrote 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life, 87% feel that they now have a responsibility to tell their friends and family when they have a good and or bad experience. And the real news is many people will leave after one bad experience, but 1 in 3 will absolutely leave if they feel they're taken for granted.
There's a little cake shop near me that has suffered a horrible journey of initial reaction to a customer complaint in a negative way. A customer complained that there was something wrong with their cake they ordered, and the store did not do a good job. I don't remember all the details, but as people now do, they went live on social media. You know, our regional subdivision Facebook page got lit up, and all these other people started jumping in. And the owner, as best I can tell, did a very good job of turning that around by, number one, apologizing and owning it, saying, we did that really bad. You know, we're not going to argue. We're not going to counter. We're just going to own it. That was not a good experience. It's not what we're about. It's not what we want to be. You know, and they start offering all these perks, and they didn't only put it out to the person that did the complaint, but basically they made bold advertisements to the whole community on the same media, because that's where people were tracking it.
Right.
And they basically said, you know, come in for the next 2 weeks. We're offering a 2-for-1 deal. You know, if you need a cake, we'll give you 2, and you know, we can work that out. And now, by all accounts, it's everybody's favorite place to go.
Well, 2 things there. First, congratulations to that individual shop and that owner to recognize and take responsibility. Second thing is, and he said it right, or she, as the case might be, it didn't say, you know, well, if we offended anyone, well, don't even start there. If we offended anyone, we apologize. You obviously offended someone, take ownership of it. So to preface it with, if we offended anyone, is the same as, I don't believe we offended anybody, but to make you all happy, I'm going to put out this psychobabble and move on. So congrats to that individual. Now, may I give you another example of someone who did it brilliantly? In Sarasota, Florida, next to the police station, there's a donut shop called 50 Donuts. Perfect name. Their brand promise, arrestingly good donuts. Right. Now, this was a little tiny shop. They open at 5:30 in the morning, and if you don't get there by 7:30, they're completely sold out. And it's not just the cops. The donuts are spectacular. They now have 7 locations in Florida. They just exploded. Now, the question is why? Well, I can tell you, August 4th in 2019, I bought my first donut there. I'm not a donut guy, but I went there and bought a donut. And every August 4th, ever since, I get a text from them. Congratulations, as a loyal customer, $5 off your order of donuts today on your anniversary.
Wow.
And I look at that and I go, wow, wow, wow. I just think from the perspective of the consumer. Now, I say to myself, here's a donut shop that's tracking me and saying congratulations, but I go out and get my air conditioning serviced, or I go out and buy a new car, or I buy a life insurance policy, or I make an investment, or I go to the dentist. And when's the last time they said congratulations is another successful year as a client of ours? Almost never. And so that's why this donut shop now has, oh yeah, it's great donuts, but they got 7 locations. Why is that? Because people feel like they're part of the community. And a
Right.
lot of people are kind, thoughtful, great, caring, and empathetic. Thank
Yeah.
you. Nicely done, 50 Donuts.
You know, it's interesting you say that. I haven't thought a whole lot about it, but my personal family lawyer, he sends us a letter on what I guess would work out to be the anniversary date of our first engagement with him. But what's in it is basically helpful tips and hints about what's changed in family law and, estate planning over the last year. And it's not a hard sales push. It's just, hey, as a courtesy, FYI, state changed these laws, the feds changed these, da da da. If it fits you, call me. We'll work through it. And kind of end of story. And inevitably, as you might guess, every year there's something in that list that gets my attention. It's like, oh God, I didn't know that changed. I need to look into that.
Yeah, and if I ask you, are you satisfied or delighted? I think I know the answer.
Sure.
And what does that cost in the larger picture? What does that really cost? When I wrote 100 Proven Ways, the reason I went into a second printing. It just came out March 12th. It already was in a second printing before it was released. But why? Because people are so desperate to find somebody like your attorney that is sending you, that's communicating with you and bringing you added value by being thoughtful, caring, kind, and empathetic. And so as a result of that, if another attorney contacted you, I would suspect you're not all that interested in moving to another attorney. Is that a reasonable?
No, I'm really not. I'm really not. In fact, funny you bring that up. My wife and I were talking. As we've moved on, a thought came to mind, we probably ought to adjust our wills. And I said, well, we'll call Richard. And she said, are you happy with Richard? And I said, yeah, I'm happy with Richard.
Like, what's the question? Right.
I said, are you not? And she said, well, I really don't ever talk to him. And I said, yeah, I get that. But yeah, my answer to the question is, yeah, I'm happy. I have no reason to think about doing anything different.
But the point is, he's in the front of your mind. Why? Because he's cultivating the relationship,
right?
And he's on the LTV side of the business, which is a blessing.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, is there any way to boil this down, Richard, to a business owner who is struggling to get their message out to the market and even get a funnel flowing? And I don't want to talk about social media marketing and pay-per-click and all that, but I'm talking about how to jumpstart that experience journey. Is there such a thing?
There really is. And what it takes is you have to have a thoughtful conversation with yourself and with some trusted clients and say, what can I do to really elevate the experience that you're having with my company? You don't need to talk to 3,000. Talk to 10. And they might say, well, I know you're doing a really good job. I mean, your emails are really pretty tactile. I wish they were more clear, or, it's good, but I hate the fact they always put me on hold. And I hate the fact when I call your office, I get sent to an answering machine. I mean, all these little things. But what it does, it helps you to set in place a few tactics that one can move forward on. But the larger point is to ask yourself, if I were a customer of my company, what would the experience I'd like to have? And then bounce that off of clients. I said, if our experience here was that you experienced a real caring environment, would that make a difference for you there, Mrs. Wilson? Oh my God, it would be amazing. Well, that starts you on the path of creating a vision. And That's the first step. You've got to have a clear picture of that which it is you want people to enjoy by doing business with you. When I say enjoy, I'm not talking about the product or the platform or the process or the plans. I'm talking about the experience they're going to have. How are they going to be treated? How are they going to feel when they hang up the phone? If I call your office and I want to talk to Doug Thorpe and he's on another line, I don't want to hear, would you like his voicemail? I'd like that individual to say, Doug's on another line. However, he's available this afternoon between 2 and 5. Let's set a telephone appointment. He'll call you back at that time. I hang up that phone at 8 in the morning. I think, thank God this guy is so good to me. If I want voicemail, then I'm hoping first you get it, second you call, and third I take it when you call. So all of that changes the game. And all of that is in the book. But that's the most important thing, is for a business owner or a leader to say, what experience do I want my customers to have? And one way to find out is then go out and ask them, if we did this, how would that make you feel? What else can we do? And it's amazing. People are so forthcoming if you'll just ask. Stop. I was at a conference this last weekend in Albuquerque. And I spoke, 45 minutes or so. And then the CEO said, we're going to delay the break. I'd like to do an open-ended Q&A. You get 1,000 people. You're like, okay, let's go with that. It was fun. And but this one individual asked me about the customer experience, and her question was, well, how much do you have to spend to elevate the customer experience? And as I said during the presentation, it's not a matter of having to spend any money. It's a matter of adjusting your mindset. You got to be open to new ideas. You got to be willing to make some changes, and raise your hand when you need help. And your best source is not saying, what do I think? Your best source is to say, what are the people over in the stucco house thinking? And if you can find out what they're thinking by asking your customers, it'll put you on the right, I'll use your word, journey to elevate their experience and create emotional engagement.
Awesome. Well, Richard, this has been really helpful, and we're about up on time, but thank you again for sitting in and sharing with us.
Pleasure.
Number one, say again the title of the book.
100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life. It's available all your favorite bookstores, Amazon, of course. You get it online or in the bookstore. 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life. You can just Google my name there too. It's Richard, Weylman. And if you go to my website, richardweylman.com, you can, of course, all the links for all the bookstores and Amazon are there as well. Or Awesome. If I can speak at a conference for you, whatever the case might be, feel welcome to reach out. That's great. Well, as always, folks, we're going to have that information listed in the show notes. So just hop down on your media there, and you'll see the show description and the notes that go with it. But one last time, Richard, thanks, man. Really appreciate you coming in. Thank you, Doug. It was a real blessing to be with you. Take care. Bye for now. Yes, sir. Well, folks, with that, we are going to wrap this up. I do like to remind everybody, if you're listening on your favorite streaming service, we do have a video version of this over on YouTube, channel by the same name, Leadership Powered by Common Sense. Hop over there, check out the archives, give it a look, and let us know if you've got any thoughts, ideas, or recommendations for future guests that could really share a new and different topic. So take care, go out, make it a great day.
You've been listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hosted by Doug Thorpe. If you would like to know more about the coaching and advisory services he provides, visit dougthorpe.com.